the woman who measured the universe, Henrietta Swan Leavitt. Hello and welcome to Hope Reactor. Today we're going to talk about a woman whose name is almost unknown in the history of astronomy. And yet, without her discovery, humanity might still have no accurate way to measure the size of the universe. Her name was Henrietta Swan Leavitt. She was the person who discovered how to measure the distance to stars. In other words, she gave humanity something extraordinary, a ruler for the universe. More than 100 years ago, astronomy looked very different from today. Telescopes existed, but there was one major problem. No one knew how to measure distance in space. How far away are the stars? How large are the galaxies? No one had the answer. Humanity was like a sailor exploring an ocean without a map. At that time, the Harvard College Observatory had a very unusual workplace. Many women worked there, but they were not called astronomers. Their job title was simply computers. Their work was not to observe the night sky. Instead, they examined glass photographic plates taken by male astronomers. Their task was simple but endless. Measure the brightness of stars, again and again and again. Among those women was Henrietta Swan Leavitt. As a young woman, she had lost most of her hearing after an illness. And in that era, women were rarely recognized as scientists, which meant she faced three barriers. She was a woman, she was nearly deaf, and she wasn't even officially considered a researcher. Yet she continued her work. But Leavitt possessed a remarkable talent. She had an extraordinary ability to notice patterns. She studied a group of stars in the southern sky called the Magellanic Clouds. Among these stars were many variable stars, stars whose brightness changes over time. Leavitt carefully compared hundreds of photographs. She recorded two things: the brightness of each star and the period of its brightness changes. One day, she noticed something astonishing. There was a relationship between them. The longer the period of the star's brightness cycle, the brighter the star actually was. This meant something revolutionary. If you could measure the period of the star, you could determine its true brightness. And if you knew the true brightness, you could compare it to how bright it appeared from Earth. From that difference, you could calculate its distance. For astronomy, this was a breakthrough. This relationship became known as Leavitt's law. It also introduced the concept of the standard candle. What does that mean? Imagine placing a light bulb somewhere in space. If you already know how bright the bulb truly is, then the farther away it is, the dimmer it appears. By measuring that difference, you can calculate the distance. For the first time in human history, astronomers had a cosmic measuring tool, and someone soon used that tool. An astronomer named Edwin Hubble. Using Leavitt's discovery, he calculated the distances to distant nebulae. What he found was shocking. Those nebulae were not inside the Milky Way. They were entire galaxies far beyond it. And then came another discovery. Those galaxies were moving away from each other, which meant one extraordinary thing. The universe is expanding. This discovery became the foundation of modern cosmology, the Big Bang Theory, the age of the universe, the structure of galaxies. All of it traces back to one key discovery, Leavitt's law. But here is the painful part of the story. Henrietta Leavitt received almost no recognition during her lifetime. She published her findings, but she never gained the fame that other scientists did. In 1921, she died from illness. She was only 53 years old. A few years later, a Swedish scientist realized the importance of her work. He considered nominating her for the Nobel Prize, but by then, it was already too late. The Nobel Prize is only awarded to the living. Henrietta Leavitt had already passed away, and so the woman who helped humanity measure the universe never received the global recognition she deserved. But her discovery never disappeared. In fact, its importance has only grown over time. Today, in 2026, scientists use the James Webb Space Telescope to observe galaxies from the earliest days of the universe, light that has traveled for billions of years. Yet when astronomers calculate those distances, they still rely on a concept discovered over a century ago. Leavitt's law, a quiet discovery made in a small research room, is still guiding humanity as we explore the farthest reaches of space. History often remembers the loudest names: Hubble, Einstein, Galileo. But behind those names are people who quietly changed the world. Henrietta Leavitt was one of them. Even without recognition, even without status, she continued observing the stars. And in doing so, she gave humanity the first real key to understanding the universe. Her story carries an important lesson for our time. Great discoveries do not always come from famous scientists or powerful institutions. Sometimes, they come from someone working quietly, far from the spotlight, simply searching for the truth. The woman who measured the universe, Henrietta Swan Leavitt. Her story asks us a question. Where will the next great discovery come from? Perhaps from someone whose name the world has not yet learned. Here at Hope Reactor, we explore the stories of overlooked geniuses who helped shape our world. If you enjoyed this story, please consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll see you in the next video.